Welcome back, everybody, to another great episode of Underrated. It's me, Alan, and of course, with my lovely co host, Ariel Ortiz
Oh,
and Derick McDuff.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, welcome back. Today, we're going to be starting a new series, kind of a new little mini series that we're doing. It's going to be a video game series called 8-Bit Cinema. We're going to be talking about our picks for our underrated video game films. We're going to be doing it a couple episodes each. It's going to be kind of how like we had last year's sequel series. So it's going to be something like that, a little summer series. And it's going to include also our other shows as well as you've never seen and gateway episodes. So keep an eye out for that. We'll explain a little bit more later at the end of the show, as per usual. And I'm going to hand it off to Ariel to her pick Assassin's Creed.
yeah. So we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed. It's a 2016 movie based on the legendary Ubisoft game series. This came out, I think, after Syndicate or probably not. I don't want to say Legion. What is it? The brother is not here, unfortunately, because he's the one that is a really good connoisseur of the Assassin's Creed legend. But it essentially follows the Assassin's Creed lore from the games of the assassins and the Templars, at odds with each other. And yeah, for me, I enjoyed it. I think it very much is tied to the lore, and I think that might be beneficial to the viewer to know this lore to it. And I feel like it's a really awesome historical kind of a movie, showing going back and in this case the Spanish Inquisition, and kind of talking about that, and the Templars kind of going after what is considered one of the greatest relics, and something that they go after in the games themselves is the Apple of Eden. And yeah, it has a really good cast of people on paper of Michael Fassbender, Marion Cotillard.
Cotillard?
Yeah, Cotillard.
Yeah, I can never
Marion
say it.
Cotillard.
Jeremy Irons and not is it Brian Gleason? Yeah, Brian Gleason, and a few others
Brendan Gleeson, I think.
Brendan Gleeson. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. And yeah, for me, I enjoyed, and I know that it's definitely a hard sell. And for me personally, I feel like if it had it has a rocky start. I will admit that, but I don't think it's as deserving as the hate that it sometimes gets. So then, unfortunately for Ubisoft, in my opinion, in their video games, they've kind of lost sight of this lore that I really love, and what this film embraced on, of this long line of assassins, and this fight between the Templars and the assassin, which in modern day has morphed into this fight against Abstergo, which is the company that essentially the Templars are in control of. And kind of unfortunately, after Black Flag and Syndicate, and that kind of story and background kind of became second tier to the just jumping into a period of time, and just fighting. And then now it's become so mystical with you fight the gods, and the Egyptian gods and all this stuff. So it's kind of in my opinion, unfortunately, Ubisoft as a whole lost their way. And I think that unfortunately, with the lack of positive reception to this movie, kind of push that move into dropping the this lore a little bit more closer. I mean, a little bit more even. And yeah, unfortunately, that's why I like this movie, is because it's so much tied to this really awesome lore that I could spend 30 minutes talking about how Desmond is essentially in all this stuff, and is essentially like the god tier assassin, like he's like the master line of DNA assassin. Like his his line goes back so far, and then like that's why it's just a whole thing. And I really feel like this movie did a good job of capturing that, and there was really awesome moments that play into that in this movie, besides the whole showing of like Aguilar, who is the historical assassin in this movie, like showing the ceremony of him, like getting his finger chopped off, and that's because the blade like has to this blade has to essentially like it has to be, it's like a second hand.
That's like come out of your ring finger, right? Like that's the only lore I know about the games. Like
well,
they cut it off, and it's supposed to be like
it has to become a part of your. It has to become a part of your hand.
Ring finger, I don't know.
But it turns out that it's ceremonial in the most part, and as showing like you're giving up on the creed, and you feel that happening between these historical characters of Aguilar and Maria, the two ones, and then you find out that like they were essentially married, and that's like their line goes down to Cal in modern day, and like they sacrifice for the creed, and that's like the basis lore that's really awesome. and then and then of course like there's a couple awesome scenes of like when he does finally like truly connect to his bloodline and his his ancestors, and that's something that's kind of like expressed in the earlier games of like like connecting with these ancestors. Desmond, it's Alistair and Ezio, and then so to see that whole line of of characters around him, and then one of them kind of like that he shares, like that's an Easter egg too, is that he shares with Desmond from the games. And
real quick, because I have questions. I don't know much about Assassin's Creed. All I knew was like the blade thing and the animus. So this character, Michael Fassbender's character, is he the main one from the games, or is it like
he's an original character. Desmond is the main character in the first 3, and then kind of the 4th. Something happens to him, unfortunately. Like, oh well, I don't know if
he was in a hatch and it exploded.
No.
But
no. So essentially, what happened to him is that they're on the run. Him and his group, they're on the run from Abstergo, trying to take him down and stuff like that. And unfortunately, they lose the fight, and he gets killed, and Abstergo ends up taking his body, and essentially, and this is kind of like what's hidden, like that's like this animus in this movie is like a new generation. Like usually the animus and the simulation are just experienced by themselves, but in this one they kind of like up it in the technology, which is like in a very Abstergo way, to like kind of like see and visualize it. And that in itself, that animus like really plays cinematically for me, apparently. I mean, and so they get a hold of Desmond's DNA, and with that they kind of like create the animus, that like just using his DNA, because like I said, he's kind of like a god tier in assassin lineage, you could say, because he has like his lineage goes back to like the first assassin, and so like he's essentially like is in the line of I like, so I don't know, a little religious, but like he's the Jesus Christ, and like he has that whole awesome line of lineage and heritage, and Father Abraham, like he's his ancestor, and stuff. But yeah, so this character in this movie, Cal, is an original character, and the reason why they are after him is because his ancestor is the one that hid the apple of Eden. And in true Assassin's Creed lore, they kind of like throw in a historical figure of Christopher Columbus at the end.
They're like,
Because,
how about this genocidal maniac?
But yeah, and the one thing that, like, going back to the lore that I love in this movie, and the Assassin's Creed games were going in that trajectory, especially with like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, of like showing the sector and the lore of the assassins in modern day. And that's an Assassin's Creed game that I would love to see, is like, just like, because there's so many historical things, like you don't have to stay in like ancient Egypt and ancient Rome and stuff. You could kind of get a little bit modern and show these like assassins, like, trying to like stop all these historical events that were caused by the Knights Templar and all these other things. Like, I feel like that would be an awesome story to create, and we kind of get that sense of that with the modern day scenes of seeing all these people who are assassins themselves, and because like you become like some assassins, it's just a lineage and they learn from father to son and all that. But then other ones, because of the uses of the animus, gain these abilities because of this bleeding effect, and become like, that's what we kind of see with Cal's character. He learns to be an assassin because of this, and
So
yeah, then
when does this take place? Like
this takes place
because
in modern day, I would say.
I feel like it was like the near future. It feels like, like
Yeah,
5
I
to
would
10
say,
minutes in the future.
yeah, I would say possibly after Desmond's death, or probably, because like I don't think they're still looking for the
According to the
apple.
Wikipedia, it's dystopian. So I mean, that's kind of like vaguely futurist.
So are the games like a little ahead of time? Like this, like I always thought that the games were a little further out because of the technology, and then they kind of bleed through
In
or
that case,
something.
in that case, yeah, it's like a like a postmodern, like a futuristic. No, I thought you were talking about the actual like
Oh no no
like
no! Like
timeline of the games. Yeah,
because I know what you
yeah.
mean. Because I've heard people say the same. Where they're like, "Oh, I wish I can play as like the assassin in present times," and I've seen really cool fan art of like modern day, like with the white outfit and everything, and like they'll have like they'll even make it like a lightsaber blade or whatever.
Oh no, that end scene with the assassination of the of Jeremy Irons' character, that is like one of my most favorite parts of this movie, because it's essentially shows you like these 3 modern day assassins, and they're like how skilled they are, and then also with how awesome like assassins are at least in the old lore of Assassin's Creed, of like how they all have like their special designs and stuff like that, and then it just yeah, like how they're all together in one, they're a creed, but they're all have like these
They're an Assassin's
individualness.
Creed.
Yeah, but I mean, then you get that kind of sense like that when they save the prince of Spain. He's like, so this Spanish Inquisition, the Romans kind of like, or Catholic Church, like trying to take over from the Moors and stuff like that. But that when they like save the young prince and stuff, and like how the assassins like all kind of like come in, and like they all have like special weapons and stuff like that. That just feels like that's the whole point of this special series. Like, it just feels like the game. Like, it's so cinematic in like how it is, and yeah, like it's just I will be the first to say that there are problems with this, and like movie and story wise and stuff like that, but it's not the worst in my opinion. But and it also like had the thing that hurts me is because it like had that potential. It had that potential of like seeing like this modern kind of like more modern assassins, and then like this fight against Abstergo, which you kind of like slightly dwindled out on the newer ones. I think like I haven't really paid attention to them, but I think like not Valhalla, like Odyssey, like it's essentially an archaeologist is just like to learn. That's why she's like diving into Cassandra's like memories and stuff like that. I don't know. I kind of myself have fallen off of the because it's just like more so the story, which is a good part, more so the story of the historical journey than the actual like present time like conflict. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I knew none of that. I don't know anything about the Assassin's Creed games. The only interaction I ever had with them would be back in the day. Like, I was dating somebody who would play them all the time, and I would just kind of watch her from the background. So I just saw her doing all the things and jump off the buildings. It's like, this looks vaguely interesting, but it was never a game. I play a lot of games, but that was never a game that I was interested in. I'm not really particularly interested in all this, the lore and stuff like that. No offense to any fans of the Assassin's Creed games, but they were not really my jam that I really wanted to get into. And with that all said, I still thought this was a pretty good movie, and I think that's really what it should be. You shouldn't have to know. Oh, here's the history of you were talking about Abstergo. I was like, I don't know nothing about these guys. If you know all that stuff, and this is a great, and you're a fan of the games, and this movie is able to like give you all the stuff you were talking about, Ariel. That's great, but also you should just be able to watch this movie without having to play the games, which is what I did, and I thought it was pretty. I was honestly like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of worried going into this, like seeing the scores and seeing like how like after hearing everybody talk about it, I was like, ooh, all right, I'm gonna give it a chance, but I feel like this one is gonna be rough. But it felt like a very solid historical action film done with some like real, just some real effort behind it, and I think that is the big thing. And I've been thinking about why video game adaptations are so just like kind of looked down on. And one of the big reasons I think is because fans are so salty. Like they're like worse than Star Wars fans, like video game fans. If like something isn't exactly like the video game, they will fucking riot. And it's weird because it's like there's adaptations for everything. There's adaptations for books, and there's adaptations for other movies, there's adaptations for plays, and if you're not accurate to that, like people don't like, you don't have to have read the book to see the movie, but there is like this perception that you have to have played the video game to see the video game movie. And I don't think that needs to be the case. You can just make a really good story that stands on its own, that people can enjoy whether or not you are familiar with the source material. And I think that this movie, in the overall history of video game movies, 2016 in particular, but this movie, along with Warcraft, which also came out that same year, I think did something that no other real video game movies had done. And while those movies were both kind of, failures at the box office and critically, and there's things about them, like I do think, I liked the film, but, I think it petered out a little bit at the end, but I still did enjoy it. Warcraft, I think, was really ambitious, but kind of, didn't really work for me. But they were taking steps in the right direction, and it's at the pivotal point in kind of video game adaptations, because I've been watching all of the video game adaptations I can for this series to try and like, get as much knowledge and speak to it as much as I can. And these films were really, for the first time, made with like prestigious people, like Justin Kurzel, who had just the year previously, the same team that did Macbeth, the 2015 version of Macbeth, which is, in my opinion, one of the most impressive looking films of all time. So you got Justin Kurzel, obviously you got back Michael Fassbender, and then they also got back the cinematographer Adam Arkapaw. All three of them back, who had worked on this prestigious film to make basically a prestige video game film, which was unheard of. And I think that's what was really missing, and that's why part of the big reason why video games had this reputation for so long of being like garbage and not being good, because you wouldn't have people who were there was people just doing it for a quick buck. It was not people wanting to make actual cinema. And this, no matter what you say about it, was a real attempt to make some beautiful, impressive cinema. Because one thing too I will say about this movie is it looks incredible. It is so visually cool. Like the stuff they're doing where they're in the Animus and he's seeing like, you know, the ghosts and the bleeding and everything. There's some really good stuff. There's obviously all these great actors in it, like you had mentioned. So taking all these ideas from the games that have resonated so much with people, and really for the first time giving them a big budget, a like talented director, and just all, and you know, a great cinematographer, I think really made all the difference. And that's why just a couple years later, you start to see movies for the first time ever get positive ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I think since 2019, when the first video game movie to get a positive score on Rotten Tomatoes, Detective Pikachu, there have now been 4 more, and they've all been within the past couple of years. And video game movies, after having this reputation for so long of being bad, are now actually starting to be. We just had just a couple weeks ago, Sonic 2 come out, and it's getting great reviews. You know, you had last year, you had Werewolves Within, you have all these great movies getting good reviews, and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this movie, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and you know what? And I agree with a lot of stuff. And actually, I would go as far as to say, you don't really have to play the games to really enjoy the movie. If anything, it's a benefit because, like I said, all I knew was like the Animus, and they kind of actually did it how I imagined it looked like. I was like, I bet it's some weird machine off the ceiling. I don't know how it looks like in the games.
It's more so like a Matrix kind of like jacking in. So like the thing that he puts into his neck, that's essentially is like what mainly the Animus like is, or it's because Animus is like more so a program, but they created that whole system with the arm and all that,
like the big old
as like as like an upgrade to that system, so that they could see the projection as well. Because usually the Animus is just kept to the person that's jacked in, and they experience it and all that. But yeah, this is like a kind of like, you know, like another version of the Animus that is in the games.
No, yeah, that's exactly how I pictured it. So I was like, I don't know, I thought that's how it looked like in the games, but yeah, no, and like the thing is, you know, I knew very little. I was like, I just knew what the machine did, and you know, because I watched with my girlfriend, and she was kind of like, "So have you played him?" And I was like, I played one. I tried jumping off a building and landing in a haystack, and I fucking didn't. So I said, I don't want to play this anymore. But that didn't like steer me off. I just was like, I'll play it one day. I'll get to it. But yeah, like we were both kind of like, well, this is pretty great. Like I was worried, like Derick, because that year when it came out, like pretty much all my friends love Assassin's Creed. Like they're fucking huge into it. I even was telling them about it earlier today that we're going to be recording, and they still kind of had that like Assassin's Creed, and I was kind of nervous, but I was like, dude, I was watching it and it's not bad. Like it's actually entertaining. It's a great sci-fi action movie. And I feel like the less you know about it, it's pretty cool. It does good world building, and like Derick said, there's great actors. I didn't know who cinematographer, the director was. I kind of just went in blind. You know, I didn't even know Jeremy Irons was in it, and I was like
That
super
caught me off
excited.
guard too.
I was like, yo, Ozymandias, let's fucking go. But yeah, like it was fun, man. We had a good time with it. I will say my only big gripe with it was the ending was a little anticlimactic.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting like because right before those last like 5 minutes, there's a really big scene, and you kind of have this like, oh shit, shit's gonna get real. And then I thought he was gonna get like the white costume, the white Assassin's Ninja Templar costume.
It's literally only one character wears a white costume, Alistair, which yes, he is the most popular or Ezio, sorry, Ezio. And yeah, he is the most popular Assassin's Creed, and they did do like essentially 2 or 3 games on just Ezio because he was so popular. But normally assassins wear neutral normal colors to blend in. That's the whole point, kind of thing.
Get it. I get it. Again, I didn't know. I mean, it's cool. I don't think they put it on the poster. I don't know. But that was because, again, I work with video games and I work with them all day. So I see Assassin's Creed at least numerous times a day. I don't get to play them. I just look at the cover and the whole thing. But yeah, so I kind of was like, oh, where's the costume? You know, it's kind of like expecting Super Mario not to have his costume, and then you go, oh, he'll probably have it in the last 20 minutes, and then he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have his, iconic blue and red overall costume with the red hat. So I'm kind that's what I was expecting. I was like, where's, I was like, where's my Daredevil costume? I'm over. I'm done with the Frank Miller, black costume. I want to see my Daredevil costume, and I think that was the only thing too. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
And
again, I don't know much.
The only reason he wears a white costume, Ezio,
is because he's a badass.
No, it's because it's in Rome. There's a lot of white buildings. It's
also,
Rome.
Also badass, though. I'm just saying that's
also it's
assassins
before
are
Arbor
badass.
Day? Or before Labor Day.
Truly, Edward Conway might be the most badass. He was a fucking pirate, but yeah. But
well, speaking of, I was gonna say, well, speaking of badass, real fast, it was kind of goes to what I was saying about them actually like putting like a ton of effort into this movie. Is one of the few things I know about the Assassin's Creed games is you reminded me. I forgot I didn't even put this in my notes, but you reminded me out when you're like, I jumped into the hay. It's all about taking that dive where you just you fucking
leap of faith.
The leap of faith. Thank you.
I took the leap of faith,
name drop
and
that in the movie.
Not fucking it screwed me over. I fucking hit the ground so hard.
Yeah,
unlike you, they actually did the leap of faith for real in this movie. They actually shot it practically. And normally most movies nowadays they would just use a CGI double to do that, but they actually had a guy do the stunt, and it was the biggest stunt drop they had done in like 35 years or something. And I was like, man, I gotta give my respect to that. That's pretty fucking rad.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
The raw footage is really awesome, but it's just like it's done like that's going back to that. Like there are scenes in this movie that are like straight from the game. Like they capture the mechanisms of these movements that are so iconic with the Assassin's Creed games, like the leap of faith, like that whole movement of like him like snapping back to it and then like doing this flip and then throwing the dagger and stuff like that. That's like just straight out of the game, and that's why it's like I don't understand why people like that played the game. Some people that played the game like didn't like it. I think it's more so because like they were salty because their boy Desmond got killed, and then now we have this new guy and stuff like that. So,
well, I actually wanted to get into that because when the movie came out, I was not interested. Just like Uncharted came out earlier this year, and I was like, I'm not really into Uncharted either. So I kind of just let it go by. And when this one came out, I remember it very vivid. I remember the hatred it got more vivid than it being in theaters. Like I remember fucking everybody was like, dude, fuck that movie. All the best parts. This is a very big confusing thing. Everyone said the best part of the movie was the last 5 minutes, which I fucking highly disagree.
I like the
same,
5.
I'm on the same
I
page.
like the last 5 minutes.
I really did not like the end. That was the one thing that like I was into this movie and I felt it. I'm kind of on the same side as you, Alan, where it didn't work for me at the end. But
for me, I thought I was like, okay, cool, whatever, because the fucking rest of the movie is fun. I had a great time with it. I was like, okay, I like the lore, I like the world building, and like people were just like the whole like people made it seem like it was like Fantastic,
so
like Fantastic Four, like that fucking bad. Like they were like, oh yeah, dude, all the good stuff is right at the end. It's like an hour and a half of talking and all this shit. And I was just like, when I was watching it, I texted my friends. I was like, did you guys watch this one? Did you guys watch something else? Because like it doesn't seem that bad. Like I was super confused. So I want to ask you, Ariel, as like kind of our Assassin's Creed expert. Like, why do you think people disliked it? Or what are your theories of like why people were like, fuck this movie?
I think for me, like I'm not like a historian of Assassin's Creed. Like I said, I learned mainly from my brother, and if he was able to join us, then he could provide a lot more information. But for me, and I'll go into why I think the last 5 minutes like played well with diehards of this game. But
There
for
are
me,
3 Jeremy Irons.
um but for me, I think the reason why it got such hate is because people aren't, people don't like different things. Like, so the change of the animus was something, and then having a new bloodline, and then usually, like in the games, you don't see all these other distant descendants of the assassins. You see more like Desmond, and it's like kind of like alluded that Desmond is like a very so rare of an assassin, or of having a bloodline. Like essentially the assassins have been dwindled off to like like him being like at the last, or maybe one of the last of the bloodlines of assassins. And then he came after like a when was Black Flag came out? Yeah, so it came out after like Black Flag, came after Unity and Syndicate, which are definitely ones that are underrated in themselves and weren't very much received well with fans, unfortunately, even though they are kind of like, especially Unity, which Unity is the one that Desmond and Cal share a ancestor with. But or it's kind of alluded to that. But yeah, so I think it's just that feeling of it being different. Like Abstergo is kind of like, is in the games you see a lot more of the corporation kind of side of Abstergo, where this is like very much like they're on it's like a special project and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a slight deviation of Abstergo as a company as well. So yeah, like with everything that people like are up in arms for, it's because it's somewhat different, and but in my opinion, all these differences are made for its benefit. Like the Animus plays really awesome, and it is like a new, like it makes sense that there's a new type of Animus because it's just a technological advancement. And then and yeah, I just don't understand because I think they probably had a problem with the character of Cal, most likely. And then so going on to the ending, I think that the ending, people liked him more because it fed into that core lore of the games. I mean, up until that point, you have the return of like the apple of Eden, and you see it glowing, and that's something that's shown in the games. And like, and then it kind of like ties back into Abstergo, and then the Templars, you see that's like mainly the main way, I mean the main time that you see like the Templars grouped and stuff like that. And then I enjoyed the ending because it showed like like a this, and which probably people that play the games do, because it had showed the little bit more of that espionage kind of like side of things. And because like the reason why the daughter lets him go and kill the father is because the father's been taking all of her her glory and all of
Yeah.
her things and stuff like that, so she lets it happen. And then it's for her benefit, and then he has something to tie over her if anything happens, if there's a clash against them. Like he has this now they're like kind of like intertwined in a way. And so for me, that last 5 minutes was like a little bit more of like the corporate espionage in a way of it. And so that, especially with like Black Flag, you kind of get that corporate espionage because the main character in the present is like working for Abstergo, and this whole thing kind of comes out, and he ends up helping the assassins. But yeah, I think that might be the reason.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's because it's not the main, like the main character. I guess you know what? It kind of goes with last year's Mortal Kombat,
Mm.
where Mortal Kombat for the longest time has Liu Kang as the main character. He's the chosen one, etc. And up until like MK9 or whatever, MK10. But one of my issues with it, I love that movie. I love Mortal Kombat. I love the fuck out of it. But I was kind of like, why don't you use Liu Kang? Because they introduced a new original character. And I guess maybe that's what they were trying to do with Mortal Kombat. I feel like Mortal Kombat probably did it better because they had more fan service compared to Assassin's Creed. That's my guess. But I agree with the different. Because even when I saw Mortal Kombat, I was like, really? You don't use Liu Kang? Like, he's fucking right there? And I guess with this, I guess people were like, you didn't use Desmond or you didn't use whoever else. I'm sorry, I don't know all the I don't know any of the characters.
No. It's like you didn't go into more of the lore of like. I get it's like
it's kind of like it was already
mainly
there.
like mainly like you didn't use the lore of Black Flag because
it's just like you changed it and now it sucks. You know, it's like that's like the whole thing about all these. So many video game fans get so. It's like, you know, if you mention The Last Jedi on the internet, just people are like fuck The Last Jedi. Like people just lose their mind, you know, and like. Whether like
Jedi is fucking amazing, so I don't care what everybody says. I love The Last Jedi.
People lose their fucking shit because like salty fans just get so upset when you don't include exactly their favorite thing from the game. And the more popular something is, the more like if you adapt like something that no one's heard of, you know, or like that has like a very simple plot, nobody's gonna care. Like if the Angry Birds movie, which came in the same year, people are like, yeah, it's fine, you know, like because like what do you get? It's an app, you know. There's no characters or anything. It's just you can just make up whatever story you want. But if you're like this sacred, like very expansive like lore that is so deep, and if you don't include everything exactly as they want, then they're gonna get upset. It's interesting. I'm reading right now a book, William Golding's book on screenwriting, and William Goldman's book on screenwriting, and he talks about, you know, doing adaptations and how you just have to change things because it is, you know, he wasn't talking about video games, obviously. Video games weren't a thing really when he wrote the book, but it is, you know, essential that like these are different mediums. Video games are about like you putting yourself in this role, like going through the thing and exploring and doing all these different things. Cinematic language is completely different. So with that, changes have to be made, and people get upset whenever these changes are made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's one of the ones that like in the last year for video game movies, or was it this year? When did it come out? Came out this year. But that I feel like might be getting that same backlash as like the Uncharted movie because I enjoyed it. I loved it, and like and a little bit more tied into the Uncharted lore and history and stuff like that. And for me, it was like I don't understand if people just thought that this is like a new, like it's replacing the thing that I played, but in actuality, like it's a prequel. It plays as a prequel, like to the games and stuff like that. And then maybe in the next movie they might tie into like, you know, some things that happened in the actual games, I mean. So yeah, I think that the Uncharted movies unfortunately, like, you know, get the same kind of like gist as this one did. It's because like, and that one is a lot more tied closely to the game than, in my opinion, than this movie is. But it's adding new things. It's adding new lore. So it unfortunately, like, I wasn't like, I don't know, but I've heard like mixed things about it. But for me, who did watch it, I was like, oh, this is like an incredible like companion piece to, or prequel to the video games that, you know, that everybody loves and stuff.
Yeah. And I would just kind of, you know, I was to kind of continue on why we think it has this bad reputation. We've touched on the fans a lot, but it also has like a really, like, even by video game standards, like critics, like this critical score on Rotten Tomatoes is really bad. And I was like really curious about that because it's like, this movie looks like pretty good. Like it's, you know, like I said, it's got all these prestige elements, and it might not be like amazing, like the best thing ever, but like as far as video game movies, especially up to this time, like I didn't really see anything like it. And I looked up a lot of the reviews, and a lot of them are just like kind of like middling. They're like, this movie's fine, didn't really work for me, whatever. But because of the fucking binary of Rotten Tomatoes, and I will always rant against how much I hate Rotten Tomatoes because of this, a thing is either a good review or a bad review. So if you give something like, it's fine. It didn't really work for me. That just counts as a bad review, and like all of the reviews are like that. And I think that's another thing that, that has been kind of going against video game movies is even if they're like everybody's saying it's okay, it's not great. That kind of just gets overwhelmed, and you just see instead of seeing like okay, it got an average of a C, you see 18%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel you on that. It makes sense because, yeah, I think because I won't lie. Like when like I said, when I finished it, I was like, yeah, it was cool, it was fine. Like, and to some people that might be like, oh, so you hated it, and it's like, no, I didn't hate it. I just thought it was fine. I thought it was cool. It was entertaining, but sometimes that can skew a review, especially a shitty review website like Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I really agree with the difference part. Fans just really like the way things are. They don't like their macaroni touching their rice or their chicken on their plate kind of thing. They just fucking despise it. So it's kind of like I don't know. Like I think a lot of people nowadays kind of have to just be open to it to the difference because I feel like with Sonic, what it did really well, Sonic 2, is that it was different. You had these human characters, and you're like, I don't really give a shit about them, but because of that difference, and like they were able to do a really good balancing act of having all these fan favorite moments and all these fan favorite characters, and then kind of building a story around the human characters to kind of connect them all. It kind of made something new and different. I feel like they kind of figured out the formula in a weird way. And that's why like just Sonic's killing it right now, which I'm happy for. I fucking loved it. And Detective Pikachu, same thing. Detective Pikachu, they didn't go the route of hey, let's focus on Pokemon trainers. They said
Yeah.
we're gonna do a mystery story with Pokemon. And I won't
Yeah.
lie, even when I heard about it, I was like, maybe because they did a CGI movie, I think a couple years ago before it, and then they had a Nintendo 3DS game for it. So I was like, I don't really care too much about it. And wow, was I pleasantly fucking surprised.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's totally accurate that you kind of have to go against the grain and you have to not go exactly what the fans want because sometimes the fans are absolutely wrong. And sadly, it's the majority that are absolutely wrong. Because some of these later picks that you guys are going to hear us talk about are also not very popular with fans, especially my two picks. And I fucking love them for what they are because they are completely different. And does it bother me sometimes? Yeah, it's not exactly what it is, but it's fucking awesome for what they did. But yeah, like it's fans, man. They just got to take a chill pill. Like they just got to relax and just think of it as like an Elseworlds or What If story. Like just enjoy it for what it is. And then isn't this film? I think this might be another thing that really upset people is that this film is canon, right, to the games.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
So yeah.
No, that's the thing that's very ironic because now, like, it's kind of like I don't know if Ubisoft got salty after this, and then after like
All the
fans
game
like
companies do. All the game
yeah
companies get really
after
upset,
after
and they're
this,
just
and then
like hiding their
also
faces.
oh no not like hiding, but salty, like they got pissed off because like yeah, like now they give the fans what they want. Oh, you just want just the historical story? Fine, here. And so that's essentially what the majority of the recent games have been. Like they don't even number them anymore. Like I think because they know like this isn't the lore at least of this whole Abstergo and on all that has taken a far back seat to this other like historical things. And then yeah, like I think very much so that's what might have transformed the games to what they are now, which is like yeah, they're cool, they're awesome, you're fighting gods and stuff like that. Like, in the next in Valhalla, you have Odin like on the battlefield with you, like, with his crows and ravens, like, and people, and the assassins saying Odin is with us and stuff like that. Cool, but it's like, but you
That's a
guys
huge
had this.
departure. That
I
sounds like a
know.
massive departure. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, it's been a massive departure because you had these like historical figures. Now your historical figures are gods, like I think the DLC for Odyssey was essentially it's turned into Gods of War in a way, which Gods of War makes sense because okay, like yeah, you are fighting gods and stuff like that. It's called Gods of War. But
God of War or
now
God's of War?
God of War.
Oh,
Yeah,
God of
God
War.
of
Okay.
War.
I was
Yeah.
confused for a second. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely been a major departure on the games, and it came after this, mainly. I think the next game, man, I think the next game after this was Origins, and that's where they like jumped the literal shark, of it.
Is there a shark in it?
There's crocodiles.
Oh, jump the crocodile.
Well,
Jump the little crocodile.
Fonzie is
Hey, forget
actually
about it. This croc, walk out.
yeah, Fonzie is actually the new Assassin's Creed. He jumps over crocodiles, and he fucks around with the Olympians, and he fixes their
Well,
jukebox at Olympus. I think
I
it's
was
like
gonna say.
Assassin's Creed, Wisconsin. That's what it's called. That's the location.
I was gonna say real fast too, like because we were talking about like oh they changed it, and you can't. It's like what would a completely accurate adaptation of a video game even be like? For this one, it would be just like you would just watch a guy like wandering around for like hours and just like finding scraps of paper and doing. It would be so repetitive and just everything. Or like I was still watching Double Dragon the other day, and that's a fucking weird ass movie. That's like it's not a good movie,
Oh man.
but like I was
Yeah.
like it's wild, and they basically just you have to change things because if you made an adaptation of Double Dragon that was accurate, you would just be watching two guys walking to the right for fucking 3 hours, and that's all it would be. So you have to change things in these video game adaptations because it's a different medium, and storytelling in this medium is completely different. Otherwise, you would just have 26 hours of just the same things happening over with a couple scenes of dialogue spliced in between.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole way of like the desynchronization, like, because in the games, desynchronization is essentially you're in a loading screen, like with, like, picture the holodeck. Your historical character is like in the holodeck of Star Trek. That's like desynchronization, and to show it the actual like, the actual questions of like desynchronization and things like that is like a lot. They do it a lot more cooler than the video games, because in the video games, it's just a loading screen. So to turn that into like what you see in this movie of desynchronization, synchronization, and stuff like that, just shows you like it did a lot, like, with the material that it did, and like in innovative ways, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure they used the loading screen thing like that just because it saved resources. It just made it easier, and it kind of like it's funny because a lot of video games nowadays do shit like that, where like they'll have a loading screen, and they kind of give the loading screen a little bit of a purpose, like where they're like, this is actually, it's playing, it's rendering everything, but it's playing a scene for you to enjoy, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, or whatever, or like that, like like
Yeah.
they're showing the machine and everything. So going on to film, you have to change it. You can't just be like, wait up, we're loading the next scene. We're getting the actors ready.
Yeah.
Hold up, So yeah, I totally get it. But yeah, so any final thoughts?
No, of
I think
course,
that's
for
about
me,
it for
it's
me.
it's my recommendation. So I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie.
No.
It was pretty solid. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it a lot.
I'm very happy to hear that, because even with my rewatch, I was getting nervous of like, I'm enjoying this. I like this. Like I really like, for me, like Aguilar. I love Aguilar as a character. Like this is my brother's pop, but we have Aguilar. Like I just love
He's
that
not wearing the white
history.
costume. What's that? Why is he not wearing the white Crusader outfits?
But
So he looks like
no.
Azrael from Batman.
Yeah, I just love the assassin scenes in this movie. So, like, I'm so happy to hear that you both liked it, not knowing all this lore, because I was worried, like, very much so, like, well, is it because I know all this lore that, like, that I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Fucking
funny.
good pick.
Yeah, it's a pretty good pick. I won't lie. I did go in worried because I did tell one of my friends or tell my buddies about it, and this essentially the other review was, you know how you didn't like Joker, and I was like, yeah, and they're like, well, imagine it's not the Joker. Like when I tell people how I feel about Joker, I go, yeah, it's just a guy dressed up and he wears makeup. He just looks like a fucking clown. Like he's not the Joker. They were like, that's how this movie is, and I was
Also,
like,
Joker's just a fucking movie for incels.
it really is. I'm not gonna lie. He's my favorite villain, and for me, I just when I saw that movie, I was like, it's a good movie. It's a horrible comic book movie, and it should not be a Joker movie. But that was their thing. That was kind of their way of explaining it. It's like,
But
you go see it for your.
I really disagree with that statement because it's essentially like if you put it that way, it's going to be like it's going to be like, oh, this guy's an assassin, but it has nothing to do with the creed. That's would be the like the 1-to-1 apples to origin simile for that statement, in my opinion.
Oh no,
Apples of Eden,
Mhm.
the oranges.
the
of Eden.
apples of Eden or the oranges of Eden. Yeah, I think they were just trying to say like that's how he felt because I like I said, I was like, I don't know why you guys hate this, and they were like, well, it's how you don't like the Joker in the sense because of da da da. And now kind of talking about it in retrospect, I'm like, I get what they meant, but I think also it's because of the changes and the differences, how we mentioned earlier. So what I would say is like, if you're a fan of the games, don't watch it, or go in, but watch it though. Like go in with open eyes and an open heart, and just enjoy it. It's entertaining.
Mhm.
By no stretch of the imagination is this movie boring. It's entertaining.
No.
You have a good time with it.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in the games and you haven't played them, but you're like, kind of want to watch the movie, I would say watch the movie just to be entertained because you're gonna have a good time with it. And if you don't know all the lore, whatever. But I've known so many people that go, oh, I actually got into comics because I played Batman Arkham Asylum, or they're like, oh, dude, I just started reading Spider-Man because I love the Spider-Man PS4 game. And I feel like in turn it can work the same way, where somebody might watch this movie and they go, hey, this is pretty cool, man, and I can be these types of characters, and I can while watching. Then some people probably got inspired and go, dude, I love Assassin's Creed because I saw the movie. The movie got me into it, and I went and bought the collection of all the games or whatever. So I would say,
Yeah.
nonetheless, check it out. It's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I would say to Ubisoft, please bring back the modern day lore of Abstergo and what happened to the guy who stole the stuff from Black Flag. We want to know. So there you go.
We've got questions, Ubisoft.
Ubisoft, when are we going to get the Assassin's Creed Rayman crossover game that everyone's wanted? That's what I want to know. But anyways, so yeah, so I guess just to wrap it up, we do have other podcasts and other shows, and we do have stuff planned for it. And I would like my lovely hosts to tell you what they're about.
Yeah, so my podcast is You've Never Seen ? And I discuss movies that are considered part of pop culture or cinematic history, and either myself or my guest are watching those movies for the first time and discussing them right after the viewings.
Yeah, and the episode that came out yesterday, we haven't recorded it yet, but it will have come out yesterday. We talked about Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, time travel.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Fucking crazy. So you guys already know what we said, but we don't even know what we said yet. So fucking fourth dimensional. And then also, I wanted to mention that keeping in line with the the video game series that we're doing, my podcast Gateway Episodes, which was on a bit of a hiatus, and until we're waiting till get 10 patrons before I start working, or I am working on season 2, but before we start releasing episodes, to give me a little more time, we're waiting to get to 10 patrons for season 2 of Gateway Episodes, which is a podcast about TV shows, and for season 2, we're going to be covering miniseries. But we're going to be doing a bonus episode before season 2 comes out. We don't have to wait for any patrons or anything. That is going to be on me and Alan are going to be talking about Castlevania. He's going to show me an episode of Castlevania, and I'm going to see if I step through the gateway and get into that. And then also, speaking of Patreon, if you are signed up for Patreon, we are going to be doing a tournament on our Instagram for all the video game movies. Basically, they're going head-to-head every day, so whoever gets the most points moves on. You vote on the movie, and at the end of it, on the 23rd, we're going to be releasing a Patreon-exclusive episode for the winner of the tournament, so vote on whatever you think is the best video game movie. And then also, one more thing I want to mention before we completely wrap up is that we also got a review. I want to read. We got a 5-star review that I've been meaning to read for a while, and I just kept forgetting. This is from Kai Bobby, who wrote the review. The title is Swell Humans, and they write, I checked out the 13 Ghosts episode, and I really enjoyed it. I love these actors. How have I not seen this movie? Gotta love a bad, good movie. All are a bunch of fun. Thanks for the good times. So thank you for listening, Kai Bobby. Thank you for the 5-star rating and the kind words. Anytime
that's one of the most iconic episodes. Like we have,
that's a great fucking episode.
We have one of our best clips as if you go on our YouTube channel, clips, and it's from that 13 Ghosts episode. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a fucking fun time. So just want to say thank you. Yeah, even if you guys can't, support us on Patreon, just anything like a review or even a rating helps so much, and we are even if you just listen, we love you guys for it.
Absolutely, thank you so much, Kai Bobby was his name.
Yeah,
thank you so much, man. Appreciate it, and we'd love to hear from more of you guys. Please drop a like. Just hop on, man. Just hop on, have a good time with us. We love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, email us at undercastcompany@gmail.com, or we've got a Discord. Follow us over there. Get in the conversation with us. We love talking to you guys.
Well, with that, everybody, thank you for listening, and please, join us for the next one, because, like we said, this 8-bit theater is going to be a month-long, series. So it's going to be really awesome, and this is just the start.
Yeah, and I'll just say right now, should we tell them all the picks? So I think, let's get them interested. My next pick is going to be the 2020 movie, or 2021 movie, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. It was one of the most fun times I had at the theater last year. It is ridiculous. It is so much fucking fun. Alan, did you want to say what your pick, the grand finale of this video game series, is going to be?
I want to, but I kind of want to save it because I feel like
keep it as a mystery.
I want to keep it a mystery for sure.
You guys will have to tune back in.
But yeah, tune in for it, because it's a very controversial pick, and I love it to death. And I want to give a hint, but I feel any hint is going to give it away. Let's just say I don't want to say anything. I'm gonna keep it under wraps. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you guys so much. Oh my god, I can't even speak. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you for listening in, and we hope to hear from you guys soon, and we hope you guys hear from us soon with our new episodes coming out. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of 8-Bit Cinema, and I hope you come back for more. Have a good one, you guys. Take it easy.
Bye.
Thanks for being amazing.